This is the voice of the New York Football Giants, Bob Papa, and you are listening to the best throughout Europe, the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast, proudly and in association, shall we say, with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, as always, it is okay to talk. This episode, from a Giants perspective, we are 100% British, but as always, 100% Giants. We're also 100% British on the pod as well, but there's a few more of us than normal and some new faces there, as you will see. We are welcoming some frenemies. Do we call ourselves frenemies? I think that's probably the closest way to do it into our world, as we are joined, as you can see, by Phil from the British and Irish Eagles. We have Josh from Hail on 3 Pod, and we have Paul from the UK Cowboys fans, who seems to have moved his name around again, and it doesn't say the world's team as it did there.
Yeah, there as well.
Oh, okay. So the flag's doing the talking for this one.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, and we are literally going to get straight into it. If you're watching it on YouTube, on X or Facebook, please get involved in the comments. This is the right time to get involved in the comments and really drive the conversation for the 4 of these guys who are going to be going up for it. Like this video, subscribe if you aren't already, hit the notification bell, make sure all the audio listeners to rate us on your podcast platform of choice. Aaron, how many 5 stars? How many 5 stars? There you go. 5 stars. There we go. 5 stars. Thank you very much. And like I said, all corners of the NFC East are on the show here. The comments are already going a little crazy, should we say, between the Eagles and Giants fans. So there's no surprise there. So hopefully we'll get some Commanders and some Cowboys in there at some point. Aaron, we're going to start with you. How are you doing this evening? Are you ready to defend the pod?
Yeah, so, pre-season game, send the rookie out, right? Rest the starters. The rookies got this handled. So, yeah, the starters are, can wait for the regular season game and show all the domination then. But, yeah, the rookies got it covered.
Amazing. Phil, you are sort of up there. So I'm going to move myself sort of away to the side so I'm not the focus anymore. Phil, you're kind of first on the roundhouse, shall we say there. So I just want to start off by giving you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself and what the pod is and, how you guys cover the off-season or have covered the off-season so far. So we'll start with that.
Yeah, so Phil from the British and Irish Eagles. We've been doing it now for about 5 years. Thank you. And we started up just about the time we were getting our asses kicked by the Giants, funnily enough, in December 2020, the end of the Carson Wentz era. So we've been doing it a little while now. We're sort of enjoying the better years at the moment, obviously. But I've been an Eagles fan just since 2018, and it's not because of the Super Bowl. I'm ex-Navy, and it was the first time I had to get to see an NFL game in America. What a hell of an experience. I'm sure we've all been there. It's sort of it really hammers home becoming a fan. So that was it for me, and fell in love with the Eagles there. Met Liam and Mick and Tony now, who works for Loch Lomond Whiskey, so become a big sponsor for us as well. And yeah, we've been covering them for 5 years, getting into it. Been nice for the last year or so. This off season has been a bit quiet for us. I guess when you win, you kind of don't really need to think, well, what do we need to do to fix whatever was wrong? It all went perfectly well for us. So I sort of wondered if it's quiet, and I've asked other people and they've agreed with me. It's been how we got the business done early, and we've been kind of we're not podding as much as we used to. Just Liam's moved over to Philadelphia now, so it's a time zone difference. Also, just people are busy, but it's just generally been quiet for us.
I think that's something that we can kind of all agree with, is that the off season as content creators can sometimes just become a little difficult to try and find the angles to keep it interesting. for us, obviously, we've got a lot of turnover and stuff like that, and a lot of anticipation, I guess, on this season. So it's maybe been easier. Paul, you've obviously had an interesting off season as well.
Yeah,
with an owner who can't shut up.
Surprisingly, up till now, has actually been the most quiet he has been during the off season until now. He made the most ridiculous statement at opening day at training camp, talking about Trevon Diggs, Micah Parsons, Terrence Steele contracts. I'm just like, Jared, just get off the microphone, please, for the love of God. But it's nothing new in the world of Cowboys Nation. Cowboys fans want Jerry gone, pretty much. I mean, I should have worn my Jerry makes me drink t-shirt. I should have worn that tonight. That would have been felt more appropriate. But hey ho.
So, Paul, how long have the UK Cowboys fans been going, and how did you become a fan of the Cowboys?
So the UK Cowboys fans were started by Jamie Smith and a few others back in 2011. I've been a member since 2013, and ever since then it's been going strength to strength. We started the UK Cowboys fans live stream podcast for 6 years now. And that's been going really, really well. We've actually had VP Stephen Jones on our 24-hour live stream back in 2020.
I think we might have lost Paul's audio there. No. While he's sorting that out, I'll let Josh kind of come in. Josh, how on 3pod are the saviours of this roundtable coming in at the last second to represent the Commanders, and we wanted to make sure we had it all four on. So, tell us more about Hail on 3.
Cheers, Craig. Yeah, no, really happy to be on. I feel like the rookie, right? So we've only been podding for 17 episodes. So it's myself, my brother who's stateside in Chicago, and good friend James across London. So we've all been Skins fans, Washington Commanders fans, Washington football team fans forever, and we all chatted forever, like in an inordinate amount of time on WhatsApp and on the phone about the team. But thought, do you know what? Why not? Let's get it out there. Let's get it on the airwaves and see if anyone wants to listen. So it's been a really nice off season. We're in that kind of honeymoon period of the podcast, I guess. Like we're really excited about it. We're podding kind of every week. We're talking about anything and everything, every single training camp, news story, etc. I'm sure that kind of will gradually die down over the years if we keep going. But at the moment, we're well into it, and yeah, really happy to be here. Obviously, it's coincided with like a good time in Washington franchise history compared to the last kind of 30 years or so. So it's nice to be on a round table and kind of not have to cower in the corner.
It's funny, we have I can already see him in the comments here. Kevin, the PRF, Kevin's been in our live streams for a while. He probably won't mind me saying this, but an impartial Commanders fan. He tends to be quite knowledgeable on NFC East across the board. So it's quite good to have him in here. But yeah, I mean, 17 episodes, brand new pod. It's nice to kind of promote something like that. Obviously, Aaron has been with us probably for around about half of that number, I would say. Relatively new to the pod. We've been going, obviously, I think this is coming up to our third season on YouTube, fourth season as a podcast, maybe even fifth. It's nice just to kind of have us all together. Paul, are we back in the room?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, where did you last hear me at? Sorry. At what point?
Stephen Jones been on the pod.
Right. Thank you, Aaron. So we had Stephen Jones on the show, and we were raising money for like all the hospital nurses and everyone for like during the COVID years and stuff like that. So we managed to raise over I think it was like £350 in donations. And it was basically a whole 24 live hour stream during the whole draft. And needless to say, I lost much more in my hairline because of that stream. But yeah, it was fun. But since then, we've been starting to do more annual trips with the fan group. We're going to the Kansas City game this year at AT&T Stadium for Thanksgiving, and I think for Phil's amusement, we're also going to the Eagles game the week before that as well. So, but yeah, it's been quite successful so far. So we've got about 25 of us going this year. So it's going to be a big group.
Is that a self-run trip, or is that in?
This is through our sponsor. So it's like one of those when your particular team. So it's called Cowboys Experience. So they help organize your hotel, tour for stadium tours, etc. as all one package type of thing. So we're all grouped together. So we'll be traveling by bus together, leaving the game together, etc. So we're going to all experience it all together. So it's going to make some really good memories for people who's never been before.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I guess we should really get into the crux of everything and actually sort of talk about the off season. And while we're kind of talking with you, Paul, you're kind of up first on my list here for this question. I think the one thing that you learn as an NFL fan is that season to season, everything changes. Players leave, players sign. The draft obviously supplements a lot of teams. Teams get higher draft picks if they weren't as good last year. That can sometimes change a franchise around. Players leave, successful teams. Those successful teams can't draft, obviously, the best players around. So sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve there. So with that in mind, I want you to tell me about your biggest player loss, your biggest free agency signing, and the draft pick that will make the biggest impact this year.
Biggest player loss. As much as I would say in some capacity, I would say kind of in a way of Rico Dowdle, because we're in that unfamiliar territory. We've literally have basically a whole new cast of running backs at the moment. We've got two rookies in Phil Maffa and Jaden Blue from the University of Texas. And in terms of, we've brought in Javante Williams, which we don't know how well he's going to do after his injury recovery. And also we've got former Eagle, Miles Sanders as well, who has been looking pretty good in training camp at this moment. So that's kind of my concern with that. That's why I'm kind of saying Rico Dowdle, at least he was building that momentum, like from last year when he was given the opportunity of taking over from Ezekiel Elliott. He could become the first undrafted Cowboy to go over 1,000 yards. So it would have been nice to retain him, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. And sorry, Craig, what was the second part to your question?
So the second one is the best free agency signing so far this offseason.
I think that's actually quite an easy one, really. It's obviously George Pickens. But a lot of people would kind of criticize, it's like George Pickens is nothing but trouble. But from what I've seen so far, he's been nothing but super professional. But I'm going to throw a little bit of shade to Steelers Nation on this one, because really, is it really a George Pickens problem, or is it a Mike Tomlin problem? Because when you look at all the other wide receivers in the past that they've had, they seem to come and go so abruptly, like Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, the list goes on. Juju Smith-Schuster gone, goes to Kansas City. Like, is it really a Pickens problem, or is it actually a Mike Tomlin issue? So that was my kind of argument to that. But now we're kind of seeing this 1-2 dynamic with CeeDee Lamb and Pickens in training camp right now. It's looking pretty exciting for me as a Cowboys fan. Just looking forward to see how it ends up.
And then the last one is draft pick that will make the biggest impact this season.
So a lot of people tend to go with like our first round pick, Tyler Booker. I beg to differ. It's either going to be our second round draft pick and Donovan Ezeraku from Penn State, or it's going to be East Carolina cornerback Siobhan Revel, who I've had the pleasure of seeing him playing live when he was at East Carolina against North Texas a couple of last year. So I was really intrigued, and I'm not really much of a secondary person myself, but when you see a player that kind of really goes from end to end, ball to ball, like he's just all over the place, that's Revel. So I'm really excited to see how he progresses. And Ezeraku, for me, played at Boston College, won multiple awards as best defensive lineman in the country. very excited to see how he's doing, and he's been causing nothing but disruption so far, going up against like Tyler Guyton, etc., in training camp so far. So I'm excited to see how he turns out.
Josh, the biggest loss from a player leaving this off season?
Good question, and I'm going to go slightly against the grain. Lots of people are saying Jonathan Allen, long time kind of inside defensive lineman, leader, locker room guy out of Alabama. But I'm actually going to go elsewhere on the defensive line, and a bit of NFC East needle in this one. Dante Fowler Jr. last year was our leading sack getter. So he had 10.5 sacks for us last year. And it was kind of on a rotational basis, and it was a bit of a surprise when we signed him on a 1-year deal. And he's now left and gone back to Dallas on another 1-year deal there. We also didn't go and draft an edge rusher in the early rounds. So I think actually that Fowler's kind of key rotational pass rush situations, getting to the quarterback, that's a lot of sacks to kind of replace without a serious edge defender drafted. So that's possibly where I'm going to go on the biggest loss this offseason. A bit of a surprise, maybe.
And best free agent signing?
For me, that's really easy. It's Laramie Tunsil. So that was a trade with Houston. So we got Tunsil, and then there was a draft pick swap there. So a 3rd and a 7th, and a 6th in 2026 and a 4th round back. So it's a 3-year deal for Tunsil. He's an immediate left tackle upgrade, the best left tackle we've had since Trent Williams, best lineman we've had since Trent Williams, all pro caliber. And I suppose it's the kind of obvious attacking success situation, trying to shore up the line for Jaden Daniels, make sure that his blind side is covered in that old school terminology, and just really give Jaden maybe a bit more time in the pocket rather than trying to play hero ball. But I think Tunsil was a great shout. I think he's still got a few years at that all pro level in him, hopefully.
And then the player that will make the biggest impact from your draft class.
So I'm gonna go with one that has kind of a personal angle, because we drafted in the 2nd round Trey Amos, the cornerback of Ole Miss, and he was a guy that I'd identified the week before the draft as someone we might draft. And then when we did draft him, I took a massive victory lap on the pod. So I'm hoping to take an even bigger victory lap when he has like a really good rookie season. But in seriousness, like he really fits our mold of like a strong man coverage corner. Plays up on the line, physical, he's got good length and stuff. I think given the Marshawn Lattimore kind of question mark situation, which I'm sure the guys are having an interesting eye on after we traded for him last season, that's the jury's out a little bit on that. And I think Amos coming in as a 2nd round pick should start straight away, should start on the outside, and hopefully can shore up a little bit of that secondary woes that we've had basically forever.
Aaron, I know obviously many of the listeners will already know some of our picks here, but I'll let you fire through the 3 questions from a Giants perspective for the others.
Yeah, actually, the first one's a tough one. What was our biggest loss? Because I'm not sure I miss particularly anyone. I think the rest of the NFC East are going to miss Daniel Jones being on our team and handicapping us. I think technically he was cut mid-season, so it wasn't off-season loss. I think the way I decided this one is purely on where this guy ended up, and that's Azeez Ojulari making the trip over to Philadelphia. He's not. We know he's a very limited pass rush only defensive end, but a very good 5-6 sack season guy, a 6 sack a season guy, and the fact that we now have to play him twice, and our offensive line history, I think probably that's the one that I fear the most. There's also Adoree Jackson there as well, so if he doesn't get the sack, there's always a chance of us throwing an interception to Adoree Jackson. Although that wasn't particularly his strong suit for us, he didn't have too many interceptions for us. For the key free agent. It's hard. There's a couple of guys to call out. So obviously Russell Wilson coming in to shore up as the veteran, the bridge quarterback is a key point. I think probably more important is Paulson Adebo. Bringing in what will be our cornerback 1, allowing Deonte Banks to be cornerback 2, where he was better at in his rookie year. he's got some competition in camp, whether it be him or Cordell Flott, but that bringing in that and shoring up the secondary, because our best draft pick has shored up our defensive line in Abdul Carter, and I'm sure Shane wouldn't let me pick anyone else other than the Penn State standout. We know how dominant a number 11 from Penn State can be in this division, and as an edge rusher, and we've gone and got one of our own, and hopefully, I think that's the guy that all of the other teams are worried about us picking up, certainly at this point in time.
Surprised you didn't say Cam Scatterby, but that's a conversation for another time. We all know about your love there, Aaron.
Yeah.
Phil, it's come round to you now. This is interesting for me because I feel like when it comes to players leaving, surely that's a bit tough because there's kind of been a mini exodus.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing of our off season is the sheer volume of departures, but it tends to be what happens when you're the best team out there. People come and poach your players. You can't keep all your free agents. Teams have tried to do it before. The Bucks sort of tried to keep everyone, and it didn't work out. The Chiefs have found to repeat is so hard. The fact that the Chiefs and managed to do it was incredible, and how you keep that core together. And I think that's why all our business was done early. I feel like Howie had this in the forefront of his mind and decided early, I know who I'm keeping, I know who's going to be going. I'm not going to sort of spend the off season with the rumours swelling about can we keep these players. The fan base didn't even get a chance to sort of think about it before Becton was out the door, Sweat was out the door, Slay was out the door. All these experts, or the vets and that got sort of released or traded. CJ Gardner-Johnson's a divisive character. You can find the fan base split on whether they're happy or sad that he's gone. Personally, I trust the Eagles that for a player like that, we brought him in, he did his job, but he's not sort of a player that you want to keep around long term because he is volatile and he's as liable to win you a game as he is lose it, because which was evident this season when he got ejected versus the Commanders. But not touching too much on that. Yeah, I guess I'm most disappointed personally with Becton because from a personal point of view, I know there's plenty to choose from, but it was mainly how he came in and a redemption story, and he just exploded, and he got switch positions inside to guard and just smashed it. I mean, yeah, our offensive line is really good, so when you're with players like Myla, Lane Johnson, stuff like that, you're gonna have that elevation in yourself anyway. But for a player like that to come in, switch positions, and then basically to smash out Tyler Steen from the camp battle, it was just epic to see him. And then he was gone just as quickly as he came in, and it kind of feels like it would have been nice to sort of see a bit more of him to go around. But it was free agent additions is even harder, I think, personally, because like I said at the start, when you've been successful, you don't need to plug that many holes. There's not many obvious needs that we needed to go out and address. So the free agent signings haven't been particularly exciting. AJ Dillon coming in, probably one of the more flashier ones, but he's coming off a serious injury. It's not sure. It's not guaranteed he's even going to make the squad going into the season, although I would suspect more than likely he will. But it's, you've got Will Shipley and you've got a couple of free agents, UDFAs that have come in. So there's a camp battle. We had Jamal Singleton, the Eagles running backs and assistant coach, on about a week or so ago now, and I was grilling him about the depth and stuff like that, and he seems to be excited about the obviously it's a battle behind Saquon. Thanks for that, by the way. But essentially, I'm probably going to side with AJ Dillon because I feel like he is quite similar to Saquon. So if you've got the amount of the size of the quads in that running back room is unbelievable, and I think that if AJ Dillon does get through camp, does make establish even for a running back 2 or running back 3 position if Will Shipley brings back, because they are two different players, as Jamal was telling us. That running back room is going to be even more phenomenal. And when you look at last season, Saquon on his own probably won us the title, essentially, if you want to look at it that way. To bolster that room is even more exciting. But as for the draft pick, I was going to try and go left a little bit out there because it's obvious, like, the previously going for your first round pick, obviously he's going to be designed to be the most flashy, and I was going to kind of go for Ty Robinson because he's really been doing well in camp. There's a lot of excitement around him sort of coming in. Was a steal in the draft, fell quite far. We picked him up in the fourth round, sorry, at pick 111. I was going to go safety and Drew McCouver because that is probably a big position of need that we've got at the moment. Safety is probably the biggest question mark. So we need him to kind of come in and fit right away. But based on how Jahad Campbell's come in, based the fact that he was treated as being in the injury concerns, and he's come into camp and he's basically put pads on straight away. And now I saw a tweet today from one of the beat writers basically saying there's a good question that the Eagles might have to taper his aggression, his intent. Like, he's come in and he's just smashing it to the point at which they need to sort of rein it back. It's like the season hasn't started yet, and also, you don't want to have a problem player on your hands where he's just so aggressive that you're kind of having to taper how you use him. So I'm gonna have to go with the first round pick, Jahad Campbell, for being a steal as well because of the injury concerns, falling to the end of the first round, and just how he's come into camp so far. It's just going to be really exciting to pick him. I'm just to quickly touch on that as well. Is in one of the few IDP fantasy drafts, and he went ridiculously early. So someone knows something. There's a lot of buzz around him.
I feel like linebackers are probably one of those IDP early picks anyway, just because of the fact that they get so many tackles. You want to try and find those tackling machines, don't you? So let's have a chat about quarterbacks, because it's probably a sore subject for us, but maybe not so much for the Eagles and the Commanders guys. Phil, I'll get to you at some point with the quarterback chat, because I think that's going to be an interesting one. Josh, if we start with you, what's the best and the worst case scenario for Jayden Daniels this year?
Good question. We had that on one of our early pods, was exactly that question, and the kind of ceiling and the floor in year two. So I think, and barring injury, right, we'll take injury out of it, because obviously that's the worst case scenario for him and for the franchise.
Yeah, I think if we take out injury and winning the Super Bowl as being the ceiling.
Oh no, don't take that out.
I think winning the Super Bowl is probably the easiest ceiling for everyone.
Yeah, so I think it's inarguable to say that he's that we've got better. We've got better around him in terms of weapons, and in terms of bolstering the offensive line, and we've retained Cliff Kingsbury, which I think is really important for continuity. So in that sense, I think he doesn't have any excuses in terms of playing at least the same level. I actually think, though, that it is quite difficult because we've got a harder schedule, and there's that usual kind of second year sophomore slump thing that sort of happened a bit. CJ Stroud and people, kind of lots of articles flowing around saying maybe that's going to happen to Jayden. So for me, just to answer the question and come back to it, I guess, is playoffs is the minimum, whether that's as a wild card or whether it's kind of toppling Philly's crown and taking the division, which is my hope. I think that's the minimum. So we can't not make the playoffs with a quarterback of that caliber. I think we also probably need to win a playoff game as well. So that's probably where I'd sit as the floor. I think anything below winning a playoff game will feel a failure after what we saw from him last year. That might sound really like lofty and kind of high hopes, but that's generally where I feel about him as a player and his quality. I think in terms of ceiling, like anything in towards where we got to last year, same sort of thing, right? NFC Championship game. For him personally, it's just continuing exactly the same way he had. He plays hero ball a lot, as I've said. He does a lot of things that feel like they're unsustainable, like the fourth down conversions and the kind of some of the throws he makes to Terry and stuff on the run. You just think, how can he keep that up? But even if he regresses to the mean a bit, I think, winning a playoff game. I don't know. I'll be really interested to see what the other guys think in terms of having watched him, I guess, at least twice in games and then through the playoffs and stuff, whether they think that regression's coming.
Aaron, we have Russell Wilson at quarterback. We've spoken about him a lot in this offseason. What do you think? What's the kind of best and worst case scenario for Russ?
Yeah, I think it does start and or most of the decision in this kind of understanding of our quarterbacks will be around Russ. So if there is a potential that there is still a top 12 quarterback in him, yes, he's aged. He's maybe not quite the same guy, but we saw Aaron Rodgers put some MVP seasons into his late 30s. And during those years, the runner-up to Aaron Rodgers was Russell Wilson, essentially in terms of the stats that he was putting up. If we could see that level, then I think we see, the upside is what happened in Patrick Mahomes' rookie season, where you have Alex Smith play 16 games or 15 games as it was then. And then when you've already qualified for the playoffs and you've got a bye week, you bring in your rookie and he throws 5 touchdowns, and you never see that quarterback again, and on into the new era. So that is the upside is he plays well enough to put us in the hunt, and then you get to see Jackson Dart in a nothing game at the end of the season. The lower case is he struggles, and we end up having to make the switch over to Jackson Dart earlier than we like to. So I think we've got a week 14 bye. So the really obvious one is he'll play right up until the first 13 weeks of Russell Wilson. We'll have the bye, and we've got 3 games of Jackson Dart at the end. If we're on kind of a middle trajectory. If Russ gets injured early, I'd expect to see Jameis Winston come in and kind of be the bridge up to that point as well. But I think I really like what the management have done in putting a quarterback room together that kind of makes sense. And then, there is always the possibility that if there's a camp injury somewhere else, we could trade Jameis Winston, and we've got Tommy DeVito still around to be our QB3 in that scenario, right? So we can afford to trade that guy away if someone steps injured. So I really like what they've done with the room. We're also like the 24th amount of money on quarterback. So we've got 3 starters in our clubhouse, and we're paying way less than certainly what they're paying down in Arlington as well for a quarterback. So I really do like our QB room for where we've been, appreciating that we probably start the season as the 4th best starter of the group.
Phil, I'm going to break my own rule here and say that you are allowed to say the ceiling is Super Bowl, just because of the fact that I guess the ceiling would be to go back to back.
Yeah, you've hit it there. Obviously, it's going to be go back because he's done it. We know he can do it. The team, for a lot of changes, still feels incredibly strong. The draft was incredibly strong. There's no reason why we shouldn't be expecting to do that. But as I said before, it's so incredibly hard to repeat. Most teams sort of even the Patriots didn't manage to do it too many times. They Bill Belichick found the perfect formula. Who's to say that Nick Sirianni's found the perfect formula? But it feels like this year, say we had won it in 2022, would we have won it? There's a lot of what ifs going. Would we have won it this year? And in that kind of the way the team changes after you win it, people leave and everything like that. It's difficult to say, but I think the expectation has to be there. It just has to be. But just to quickly touch on the rest of them, you guys, I know Paul hasn't been yet, but Jaden Daniels is a supreme player. I think he was a big shock. I think it was exciting. You allow yourself to be like, okay, this guy is really interesting to watch. Everyone's buzzing about him. The QB rankings right now have Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts sort of flip-flopping, and it's like, for us, it's a bit like, whoa, okay, let's just hold on a second. But he's not there without some sort of merit, and it is incredible. The slump, if it's going to come or not. If it doesn't, it's going to be huge for the Commanders. Obviously, the rest of us are hoping that there is going to be a flop because we don't want to see a resurgent Commanders. We don't want to see any of our rivals resurgent. But and as for the Giants side of things, it's that's exactly what you want to be doing. You want to be getting cheap and young, and you guys probably want to be finishing quite low down or high up in the draft again for at least one more year. Would probably be my thinking, because you guys probably aren't thinking you're ready just yet, and you want to give that Jackson Dart a little bit of time to sort of get his feet on the table. You want more weapons to bolster around him, so you want to kind of not be too successful, and Jameis Winston is probably the perfect guy for you in that regard, because he is going to throw as many touchdowns as he is interceptions probably, although it's exciting for the rest of us to watch.
Paul, this is the big one, because I think Dak is obviously he's coming off the injury from last year. from the outside looking in, we don't know what Dak is coming back. Do you have the same feeling as fans?
Not necessarily. We're glad he's back to 100, like pretty much not near enough 100%. He is looking really good in shape at camp right now. He's not really been making much like errors, like making wrong reads and stuff like that. Like I think with the help with bringing the likes of Pickens, etc., and now that we've just secured Jake Ferguson to a new extension there, definitely helps. We've also bolstered the the offensive line, bringing in Tyler Booker, etc. So, but yeah, I think also just need to remember as well, like the year before, Dak did have like a almost MVP caliber season. Obviously, he lost out to Lamar Jackson, but there is some concern, like if Dak was to kind of take if that's one thing I'm a wee bit worried about when I've seen in training camp so far. Dak is doing a lot more run play option right now, and last time he did a proper run play option against the Giants, he ended up breaking his leg. So there is that level of concern. So
I think that's fair enough. Just a kind of off the cuff question about Dak. Do you feel like from the outside he doesn't get the love that maybe he deserves?
I think he's probably one of the most criticized players in the NFL just because of who he plays for. I think if Dak was hypothetically playing for a different team, he wouldn't be getting as much criticism per se. Like, I think it's just because it is the Cowboys that are probably one of the most hated franchises in the league. Same goes for the Eagles, I guess. but yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I like Dak. I really do. I've met him personally. Really nice guy and stuff like that. I just think because the Jerry Jones likes to run this media machine, so to speak. All eyes are on Dallas, and it just puts that unnecessary pressure. And that's why a lot of fans become very, especially in Cowboys Nation, can be very like bipolar. They love him, then they hate him. Like it's like wasn't until like Tony Romo retired, people love Tony Romo all over again. So it's yeah.
I think Dak, and this is probably Jerry's fault of his great negotiating skills. It's the fact that the top contract in the league for what most people in the league would say not the top quarterback in the league. And I think that is where the criticism comes from. But you know, that's not Dak's fault that Jerry decided to mess around the negotiating strategy and end up having to pay him the most because he couldn't decide whether he wanted to keep him or not.
I'll do you one better, Aaron. I was watching an ESPN video today of breaking down of previous deals. So CeeDee Lamb was the last to get his contract out of all these wide receivers like Jamar Chase, etc. He ended up last year being the highest paid last year, more than Justin Jefferson. A couple of years before that, we did the same with DeMarcus Lawrence a while back when he was getting for his first extension. Zach Martin waited all that time to basically, we are terrible when it comes to negotiating, getting deals done early. We're bad at it. But the weird part is we got Jake Ferguson done early, but yet we still got Micah Parsons, the only rookie from the 2021 season. Penny Sewell's extended, Jamar Chase is extended. All these guys have been extended, but the only person left is probably the best defensive player from that draft class is still not extended.
I mean, I'm not sure he's ever going to be a star in this league. So maybe that's why he's holding out. Maybe you want to, make him play on that 5th-year option, give yourself an extra year to decide, and then decide whether to maybe put a franchise tag on him. Maybe put a franchise tag on a quarterback and let your best player leave because you can't franchise tag him. And
Micah Parsons wants to be an Eagle so bad, and I'm just hoping that Jerry keeps pushing him out the door as much as possible. I know it's a pipe dream, Paul. I don't think it's realistic. It's never going to happen. But he wants to be an Eagle so bad. It's so obvious.
If that's the case, well, why did he say he hoped it was for Dallas to phone him at the draft?
It's just I'm just going on recent.
You had the opportunity to pick up Parsons. You had the opportunity to get him.
We did. We went in a different direction. Admittedly, how great would it be to have him? But it's worked out for us in the end, so I can't really complain too much. Maybe we'll get our man down the line someday.
I do get what you're saying though, Paul, about the perception thing. There are many a comment, as you can imagine, with the is it going to be your year thing? Obviously, that haunts the Cowboys lot a lot. Paul,
Well,
I'll let you.
I will say, Craig, I am not one of those your typical Cowboys fan that always says that. No, I'm very realistic in terms of I need to be impartial. I need to think about all the other teams and how they stand. So do I think it's our year? No, because you need to remember we've got a brand new head coach, whole new coaching staff, a whole new outlook. Like it's a completely new offense, different new defensive coordinator, Matt Elbethus, who was a former DC at Indianapolis,
Bears,
head coach at the Bears. So it's a completely different outlook. So my expectation is low. Like if we can even get 9-8, I'd be over the moon with that. Like if we were to overproceed that, that's just an extra win. But I'm setting my expectations quite low. As long as we put in good performances and be competitive, I'll be very happy with that.
So we're going to get into the divisional standings, and I'm obviously going to give you boys a free hit. But before we move on, let's have a look at one last thing on kind of an off-season with a view to the season. Aaron, we're starting with you here. Who is the one player, quarterback withstanding, that if he got injured could derail our season?
Yeah, so for me, it all starts with number one and Malik Neighbors. So we saw what he did as a rookie, as the kind of all-time reception leader, 170 targets last year. We haven't added any other receiver into that room, despite changing the quarterback room. It's already been shown in training camp that offense runs through him. If we were to lose Malik Neighbors, I think the any hope of a winning season goes. We've obviously seen what the impact of Andrew Thomas, and we might struggle to see him on the seat. He's still on the PUP. Hopefully, that's just them being extra cautious and him being ready. But he obviously has a big difference of wins and losses if he's in or out. But I think we've seen what it's like. We saw last year how much offense ran through Malik Neighbors 1 year on into the league, a better quarterback feeding him the ball. I think that's where our season will go. If we lost him, we haven't got any kind of depth at receiver that would give me confidence that we would have a successful passing game, and then that shuts down half your offense. We've seen what it's like when the other teams know that you're going to run the ball, and even when you've got the best running back in the league, they put 8 or 9 in the box and go, yeah, we don't think we're not going to let you run on us, and we know you can't pass on us, so good luck. So yeah, Malik Neighbors.
Phil? And the tush push is not an option.
It's easy to look at last season and go, if Saquon Barkley got injured, we'd lose such a significant part of the offense. That's very much true. But I think we always, as Eagles fans, settle back on Lane Johnson being just that pivotal key piece that kind of goes unnoticed sometimes, and for a good reason. He's let up almost no sacks in the last 3 years since he had his surgery and had some metal put in his ankle to sort that out. He's been almost on the field all the time, and it's like when you have a good goalkeeper in football, it's like you don't think about him, you don't worry about him because you know he's just there, he's going to do his job, and you're not going to concede any goals. It's the same with Lane Johnson. As long as he's on the field, you have great confidence. It gives Jalen confidence, it gives Saquon confidence, the whole offensive line. You lose that big presence, and the whole line sort of goes a bit lopsided. There's not the depth to the same level there, so it's just a significant drop that you're not going to replace.
Paul, does yours come down to Michael Parsons, or is it bigger than that? There is actually a really interesting question that I might ask you first in the comments.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody said, does Overshone have a 2025 timetable? Because he is a big loss.
He's just a ball-to-ball linebacker, goes from left to right, just knows how to come down and blitz. In terms of his timetable, after speaking to Brian Broaddus, who works at 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, the expected return of him is likely to be October time. So he will miss at some point the early part of the season, but he should be due back in October. So we're excited for that. Like for him, he's going to come back. But he is at training camp, but obviously he's not participating in drills and stuff like that. But he's there. He's taking in all the mental reps, so he should be ready for like go time when it comes to October.
Cool.
But in terms of the actual question, sorry, Craig, it's one or the other. Like if it's Parsons, obviously the defense. Like we noticed that substantially last year when Parsons was out for 5 weeks, how deflated the defense was. We were kept getting run over. There was no urgency, whatever. And when Parsons came back, there was an instant impact. So I think from that perspective, Parsons is a keynote to this defense. And also in terms of offense, if that was to go out, I think Joe Mixon will still go do a decent job, better than Cooper Rush, I'll be perfectly honest. But I would say it's going to be more on the defensive side, if that's the case.
And then Josh, I'm sure Jaden Daniels would be the kind of key here. But if we look outside of Daniels, who's like the big name there that could derail it?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna echo what Aaron's saying about the wide receiver one in New York, and I think it's the same in DC. So I think Terry McLaurin is the answer. Terry, the offense is very Kingsbury does a lot with the offense. He's very creative, right? So he does get the ball around, spread the ball around, but it does still kind of run through Terry. He is that true number one for us. He's developed into that, and he's kind of got that rapport with Daniels, which is just great for him, right? Because he's just had this litany of terrible quarterbacks over the years and still managed to put up numbers. But his kind of quality last year was exceptional. He had 13 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards again. He stayed healthy, and I think he was probably the main reason for that. So I think if Terry McLaurin gets injured, that would be disastrous. Now, the other wrinkle to that is he hasn't signed an extension. And at the moment, he is holding in at Commander's camp, right? So he's in the building, but he's not training. So there's that to keep an eye on as well. But if that gets done and he stays healthy, I think that would be a key.
And on the defensive side, Josh, do you think how important is Frankie Louvu?
Massively important, actually. I mean, I think the linebacker core, which was just terrible for years, when we had all of the turnover last season, Louvu and Wagner coming in suddenly elevated it massively. And they're the perfect kind of foil for each other, right? Because Wagner's like he's not a sideline to sideline guy. He's just got that nous and that kind of off the ball ability and knows where to be. But Louvu is just this energy wrecking ball machine guy, and they worked so well together. So delighted that he's still here. I think we might still get another year of decent play out of Wagner as well at that level, and those two can hopefully sort of retain a level of that play in the linebacker core that we've just missed for ages. So yeah, good question.
I like this one of has Louvu learned what the neutral zone is yet after last year?
He had some fun, didn't he? He was having some fun, yeah. Blimey. Don't remind me.
Right. Free hit session. Phil, you can go first. You can ask any of the three a question or an overarching question for the three, but it is entirely up to you.
Good one. I did actually write a couple of them down because I knew I'd bloody forget. So bear with me 2 seconds. But I think it was going to be for Josh, and it was to do with. Can't find it. Never mind. I think it was to do with. It was to do with Jaden Daniels. Obviously, it feels like is this season. Is the team putting too many of the eggs into this season's basket because the age of the Commanders is the top in the NFL, or one of the top in the NFL, and Jaden Daniels is so young. So you've got a long time with Jaden Daniels potentially being good, but you're kind of hoping that it's going to happen now, or do you think that's a mistake, or they should be kind of doing what I suggested the Giants should be looking at, which is kind of take a couple more years to sort of really get that solid base?
I think it's a really good question. I think they see a window. They think they're in the window already, and kind of halfway through last season, there was some beat reporters and stuff were saying, no, this is just a bonus year, right? This is just, whatever happens here, this is great. We didn't expect this. But actually in the building, they thought, no, we're in here. We have a shot at something. So I think they're kind of going all in that sense mentally, but they're not doing a Rams of the years past, right? They're not giving up all of the draft picks. They're trying to retain a bit of balance, and I think that I'm kind of on board with that approach. But I do get the point in terms of the age, and I think, like I said about Wagner, for example, right? There's a guy that suddenly you lose him next year, or he falls off a cliff physically. That's a huge hole, and we could have that with Ertz as well. Tight end position was so important for Jaden. If Ertz falls off a cliff or gets hurt, that's another danger. And we don't really have youngsters in those spots. So we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding. I'm kind of happy with it. I'm kind of along for the ride as well after so many years of such dreadful ownership and stuff. So we'll see, though.
Paul, you have the floor, my friend.
Probably one for you guys. With regards to the quarterbacks and stuff like that, do you really think, what is your expectation for like Jackson Dart at this moment? Like, do you really want him just to really sit for the year? Like, I know I do have another one as well for Phil, but because the way I'm seeing it for like Cowboys perspective, it's like if things don't, because with Dabble, the head coach, he's pretty much on the firing line. I think he's on his last year of his contract as a coach. Am I right?
That's a good question. I haven't looked at Dable's contract, but I think he's got one. Has he got one more year? I think.
Yeah,
I think he's got one more year.
They're not. Put it this way: they're not definitely on a hot seat if it doesn't go well this year. It's not a big expense to get rid of them.
Because I'm just kind of like, obviously, like it's still an enhancement from Daniel Jones. I think we can all agree from that, from respective rivals here. But if things don't go well with Russell Wilson, then you go with like Jameis Winston, then you just throw your rookie in there. It just seems like it's a bit desperate from Dable in that regard. Do you think that's a fair assumption in that way? Because with given him, he's in that peak of his contract as a head coach.
So I think put it this way: if they could have got up to number one, I think they would have taken Cam Ward. And once they realised that there was not a route to number one, they went for Plan B. Let's go the bridge quarterback route, and we'll try and snag the next best one that we can get a hold of. And it showed you that Abdul Carter was too much of a talent to pass up at 3. Otherwise, you just take your quarterback at 3. If you think he's the guy, right, why don't you take him at 3? But I think the best example I can give is I think, was it 2003 for us, and we drafted this guy called Eli Manning. You might have heard of him. Believe he won the first ever league game at AT&T. And he signed the locker room wall that Eli was here, christened the stadium. But that season was the same. We brought this guy who'd won a Super Bowl a couple of years previously called Kurt Warner. He came in and started the first 8 or 9 games of the season. And we were actually doing all right. We were over 500, and we have this rookie on the bench that the future. And essentially, the rookie was too good in practice to stick out with the veteran, and you brought him in. So it's really down to Jackson Dart. If Jackson Dart is doing everything right in the preseason, I expect him to get a decent number of snaps in the preseason games. None of this. Oh, we rest all of the players and we just throw Tommy DeVito out for 3 quarters. I think we'll see a lot of Dart. He's already had snaps with the 1s, the 2s, the 3s. He seems to be more with the 2s than Jameis Winston is with the 2s at this point in the camp. I guess
I've got a wee follow-up question to that. Then, are you Giants fans really sick of the all missed connection with quarterbacks? Because you've got Manning, you had Jones, now you've got Jackson Dart.
Yeah, and not really. I think we're more concerned about taking a quarterback from Duke, and not a basketball player from Duke. So yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Jones was a Duke.
The same QB
right,
coach is for Daniel Jones and Eli Manning. Yeah, that's
my apologies, sir. My apologies.
Yeah, no, and obviously Joe Judge has been at Ole Miss and was kind of the there's some recommendation come through from that way, and we know the jokers.
Gotcha.
So there is a lot of connections back to Jackson Dart. I think the thing that we're more excited about is we've got a quarterback room that will stretch the field, that will take a shot. And we know from Winston it might be a little bit, I'm going to chuck it anyway, even though he's triple coverage and whatever. But Daniel Jones became so gun shy that we never pushed anything down the field, and it completely lost any explosivity to our offense, if that's a word. And really, that's what we've kind of got. We know Russell Wilson still has his moon ball for that, and even his stats from last season at Pittsburgh, his down the field throw, his deep passing was up there as one of the best in the league at deep passing. We've got we know Jameis Winston's history. Wherever he's been, he's thrown touchdowns, deep passing, all that kind of stuff. Jackson Dart was known as being an aggressive quarterback. So I think that's what we've built. Is that although all three guys are different traits and different skill sets, they're all aggressive quarterbacks, and I think that fits Daboll's mold, and I think that's where we're going. And to say whether he's going to keep his job or not, what we have to do is see a much better product on the field. That's the most important thing. And then if it does get to that point, well, actually, the record is less important than the product on the field being. When Eli came in, we lost 6 games in a row until we beat the Cowboys in week 17. That was his first ever win, and it was like he ran the 2-minute drill, and all of a sudden it clicked. And from then on, he never looked back. And that's kind of what we'll have to do. You don't want to be firing your coach with a second-year quarterback and have that whole process start again and everything else. So you don't want to stick with a coach that it doesn't look like there's any future. So that really, for us, the season is, if our regime is staying, we have to see some green shoots on the field, whatever the record is.
Paul, did you say?
Yeah, I've got a question for Phil as well. Well, it's not really it's more of an observation and a question in a way. So statistically, if the tush push was banned, statistically, Jalen Hurts would actually have the same statistics as Bryce Young. Would you still consider Jalen Hurts as elite, as some people would say?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there. Yeah, like the tush push 1-yard touchdowns definitely inflate, if that's the angle you're going for. The stats.
I don't mean that in any disrespect at
all.
No,
I know exactly what you're saying. It's when you look on paper, especially when you're talking in terms of fantasy, he's going as one of the top quarterbacks purely because you know he's going to get X amount of touchdowns rushing every year. It's an interesting point, but I think it's definitely not just the tush push for our perspective. It's a massive factor, but we've had this for most of the off season, within the fan base, talking about what happens if it gets banned. We expected it to get banned. It looked, for all intents and purposes, it was going to get banned until the last minute. Apparently it didn't. Jeffrey Lurie's speech about young boys seemed to work. I don't really know what happened in that room, but it didn't get banned, so it's kind of a moot point. But had it got banned, we were sort of trying to make peace with it and process and see, well, okay, how's that going to affect us? It's going to affect us massively, and I think Jalen does have enough. He just hasn't had to use it as much because of the rushing side of the games. The big thing for the Eagles is the leading to the most rushing team for a long time because of last season, because they were fairly ever behind. We got in front and we were just running the ball. So, and then the tush push is a big part of that because you only have to get down to the 1-yard line or, with 1 yard to go and it's an automatic play. So without that, I feel like there's still enough. We just didn't need to use it. It sounds a bit arrogant. I appreciate that, but it's generally that's the confidence to maybe make peace because we don't know what's going to happen and we're like, well, we'll be fine. But I think generally still people have enough in the passing game and the other side of it to survive.
I'll give you guys absolute credit here. Like, I think not just myself, but quite a lot of people wrote Saquon Barkley off when we went to the Eagles. We didn't expect him to have that season that he did. So fair play to you guys. You knew how to utilize him for that season and got some really big, massive highlight reels out of him. But yeah, fair play, man.
I, for one, definitely are happy that the tush push wasn't banned, because the reason why there was so many tush pushes successful for touchdowns is the amount of times Saquon got tackled at the one. And if the tush push was banned, they would have all been extra touchdowns for Saquon. So his stats didn't look that good, and he didn't win MVP. So
that definitely is the open question.
That's
how
the
good
flip
was
side. Yeah.
Saquon have been had the tush push? Not would he be? But he's hammering it. We thought he'd be taking it easy, but one of the beat writers that I follow was saying that he's actually been more active this training camp than he was last season. So all signs are pointing towards us sort of just going with it. And as long as he's good, we're good.
Brilliant. That's exactly what we wanted to hear there, Phil. Thanks for that. Josh, your question.
Yeah, cheers, Craig. My question is for Paul, and it's a philosophical question that I ask all Dallas Cowboys fans, because it does intrigue me, and it kind of goes back to the history of the division and all that kind of stuff. So, as of today, Paul, who do you think are Dallas's, or who do you feel are Dallas's main rivals in the NFC East? And has that kind of changed for you over the years, or has that always been the same? Because I'm always really interested in
that. I think it has changed. I think from the early get-go, it was with Washington at the early parts, especially during the 90s, for sure. But as the 2010s, 2000s, like with the, I think it was who's the quarterback? Is it no Donovan McNabb? Who's the you had for the Eagles back in the 2010s? You had Michael Vick. You had Michael Vick as well, and you can see the Eagles really starting to take that momentum. So I would say the Eagles are now, especially in today's 2025, the Cowboys' main rival is the Eagles.
That's kind of the answer I was expecting, and I'm going to ask the same to Phil. And if it's now the Cowboys still, or if it's the Giants, because it always used to be Giants for my Eagles fans, but I think it's now I'm not too sure. What do you think, Phil?
Well, like I said at the start, from my perspective, I've only been following the Eagles properly since 2018, so it's going to be skewed slightly because I haven't lived through the Commanders and the Cowboys' success. That being said, I'm going to try and channel everybody through me and what I generally get from the chats, which I think is generally it's always going to be the Cowboys, just because of that there's that back and forth, and I think we love to hate each other, and it drives us so much more. And maybe because the Commanders and Giants have been quieter as of late, it's been the Eagles, Cowboys, apart from the one Washington sort of freak season where no one wanted to win the division. It's been that back and forth. That could well be changing. I feel like it's too early to switch it. It's still going to be the Cowboys, but this season is definitely could be one where it switches. If the Commanders push us close again, and the NFC Championship, you can't say that they didn't have a successful season. So to push us that far was incredible. But yeah, the Giants is just too far back at the moment to really be too concerned. But the Commanders for sure have sort of moved up, edging the Cowboys out maybe this season.
It's funny because you look at the comments at the moment, and a lot of them are saying it's Cowboys Eagles. So I think it's pretty obvious. Aaron will definitely agree with me here, but it's interesting, obviously, from a Giants perspective, where we haven't been as competitive, bar one season in 2022, with the whole playoff push that maybe skewed a lot of the thought process around Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen's reign so far. That it is and always will be the Eagles that we detest. It's just the way that Giants fans are wired. It's just the whole fuck Philly thing it's
an East Coast thing. It's an East Coast thing, right?
Yeah, it's a proximity thing as well. I think being so
I would say historically, I think definitely the Philly rivalry is the big one for the Giants, but I think probably laughing at Dallas fans is probably up there with actually hating Philly. Not necessarily Dallas on the field, but the actual fan base and the say the line and all of that. That's probably almost as much fun as win over the Eagles.
Sorry, Aaron, but I have to admit, I have to laugh at the Giants draft moments. Like when you guys draft the wrong player, you guys lose your crap. Like you lose your shit all the time. There was one guy in particular wedges himself in the middle of his living room. I mean, what the hell is that all about?
Well, New
Aaron,
York City, there's a lot of guys in there.
Yeah.
Aaron-
We've used the Devontae Smith soundbite many times. It sustains us.
Yeah.
Aaron, you're going to round this out with a
Yeah.
question.
So there was a similar. I was inspired by a question in the chat, and I've got a little bit of research on this one. So, Josh, have a little listen to this list. So, a guy called Daniel Jones who got benched. You beat him twice. There was a bad Deshaun Watson, a benched Andy Dalton, a rookie Caleb Williams, a backup Cooper Rush, a backup Will Levis, backup Jake Hayner and Spencer Rattler in the same game, a backup Kenny Pickett, a rookie Michael Penix Jr., and a backup Trey Lance. Does that list ring any bells? That's on your way to the playoffs last year and your wonderful season. That is the list of quarterbacks that your new savior dispatched. And not only did he dispatch them, most of those were by less than one score as well. So for someone who thinks that you're going to go into the playoffs this year, do you have any concerns in that? That is the names on the record. They're the notches on the bedpost going into this season.
It's a good question, right? And yeah, unfortunately, you like stole a bit of my answer as well, because I was going to say, just beat what's in front of you. And then I assume you would have come back with, but you only just beat loads of them in really tight games as well, right? But then I guess there's something about clutch with Daniels. I think I get the point. I think one thing is we were a 4-13 team the year before under a disastrous Ron Rivera tenure, and there was a heck of a lot of turnover. So I suppose we weren't expected to do anywhere near as well as that, even with a rookie quarterback that played so well. I think beating Tampa on the road in the playoffs and then the number 1 seed Detroit on the road in the playoffs in that spot and the way we did is, culmination of the season and the best that we played. And I think that's probably what matters more than beating out a couple of backups earlier in the year. So I'm riding high on the end of that year, even though whatever happened in Philly. And I'm fully confident in this year. Hopefully you guys have me back on at some point, even if we've gone back to 4-10 again, right? But we'll see.
I think I don't think it's a knock on Jaden Daniels. For me, we're looking at the Commanders. It's how good's that defense be? Is that defense going to stop enough to actually give you the wins? And I think it's going to be great watching the Commanders this season, because I think there's going to be lots of high-scoring games and there are going to be lots of shootouts, because you're going to need to put up towards 30 points to be sure of a win, because I don't think a lead is safe with your defense, particularly if you get behind, because I don't think the run defense is necessarily anything particularly scary. But that's kind of how I view that list of quarterbacks, not as a knock on Jaden Daniels, but as a knock on the defense more.
Right. We've been going for over an hour already, so we'll try and wrap this up, because obviously I want to give you guys an opportunity to plug yourselves again. So, Paul, we'll start with you. It's the last question's got to be the big one, hasn't it? What is a successful season for the Cowboys, and what are your divisional standings 1 to 4?
I think the expectation is, given that it's a brand new head coach, new coaching staff, new outlook on things, we have acquired some good weapons to give us some chance of competing this year. But I think overall for this first year under Brian Schottenheimer, I think it's a matter of just if we can reestablish the run and stopping the run and on the defensive side of the ball. That's my 2 main things looking into this season. In terms of the divisional rankings, I would put, you're talking about from 4 to 1, yeah. I would probably, and I'm sorry guys, but I would put Giants still at 4, because obviously with everything going with Discovery, you just kind of highlighted a bit Russell Wilson, waiting for Jackson Dart to come back for next year. I think next year is the one you can reevaluate that and see how things work. So I would put Giants at 4, possibly put Washington at 3. it's a toss up between us and Washington, but I'm still putting Philly at 1. Because Aaron made a really good point in terms of about the quarterbacks and the one scores, and it just occurred to me there. I didn't even realize that, so it was a really good point you just made there.
Josh, how confident are we? I mean, you kind of said it earlier with the whole, the floor is the playoffs, so
yeah.
You're obviously looking there as what your projection is. But what do you think those final standings do look like? Do you think it will be a case that you could win the division and then by proxy the NFC East continues its tradition of not having back-to-back winners for God knows how long it is now?
Yeah, you guys have kind of talked me around to that not happening a bit as we've chatted. Potentially, I'm far too pliable. No, I think I would match. I'd match what Paul said. Actually, I think the Giants, unfortunately, will still be in the doldrums a bit, albeit with some improvement and a bit of excitement. Certain players drafted, Scatterboo in particular. I then think it's a toss-up: Dallas, Washington. And actually, I think Philly. So I think all three of those teams will make the playoffs, would be my hot take. But I'll stick with the same order as Paul.
Back to the NFC East.
That would be great.
It's happened once before. It will happen again, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, as you may have learned, I'm a bit of a data guy. Been doing some maths, so I thought I'd get, rather than necessarily going 4-1, I'd just look at some statistics and chances of winning. So, if you take the NFC East as a fatal four-way, right? Every team's got a 25% chance of winning, but the New York Giants, we're not like every other team. When you have a team like us, the odds change a bit. So, let's break it down. First up, we'll talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Had a good year last year, but this is the NFC East. Nobody wins it back-to-back. It hasn't happened in over 20 years. So statistically, they've got a 0 chance of winning. So they're already eliminated. Cry Eagles, cry. Then you go to the Washington Commanders. They've got a new owner, a new quarterback. They've probably got a new name coming again. So sure, on paper, 25% chance. Subtract 15% for being in constant chaos. That gives them a 10% chance. Now here comes the Dallas Cowboys. They think they're America's team. Come December, they collapse harder than a folding chair at a tailgate. They start at 25%, but history says otherwise. You take away 20% for annual disappointment, leaves them just a 5% chance. So let's add that up. 0% for the Eagles, 10% for Washington, 5% for the Cowboys. That's 15%. You take your 100%, you subtract the 15%, and what do you get? An 85% chance that the New York Giants are winning the NFC East. But that's not all. We are Big Blue. This is our house. Last time we had a Hall of Fame quarterback, we beat the GOAT twice in the Super Bowl. That's when the lights are shining brightest. This year, HBO in-season Hard Knocks puts a spotlight on the NFC East. It's our time to shine. So I'm adding a bonus 33 1/3 from that alone. So if you've done your maths right, that gives the Giants a 118 1/3 chance of winning the NFC East. And I just have to say, the math doesn't lie.
I'm sorry, but that was the biggest pile of shit I've ever heard in my life.
I don't think there's ever been an Eagles fan and a Cowboys fan that have united.
Sorry, Aaron,
but before.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, Bill, but what the hell?
It's 118 1/3 chance. It's got to happen. It doesn't lie. I've just done the maths. You said my stats out there a minute ago. Perfect, right?
Remind me not to come to you for betting advice.
Apparently, we're the most bet on team to win the Super Bowl. The most money is on the Giants so far.
So will Leicester, I imagine, if you look back at that season.
Hey, that's a fair point, actually. Who would have thought, Leicester?
So, if you want to have 4-1, I have Cowboys 4, Commanders 3, Giants 2, Eagles 1. And it's not as fun as the. It's not, and that's not because the Giants are any good. I don't think that any of the three will make the playoffs. I think just the Eagles will make the playoffs. I think that we've got a really hard schedule against the AFC West. And I think that's going to be the real difficult thing. And I think all of us will finish around 8 and 7, 8 and 9, 9 and 8, 7 and 10. Like, it's going to be close in the middle. And I do think, and this was probably a question I missed out for you, Paul, because the one thing that I wondered if you were worried about week 2, because we know there's been this period of dominance by the Cowboys, but there was one guy that can be put down to that reason of dominance. And I know everyone's thinking Daniel Jones, but there is a guy who's undefeated in Giants and Cowboys matchups. His name is Chauncey Golston, and he has switched allegiance. So if he continues his streak of remaining undefeated in this matchup, it's going to be a Giants win in week 2.
I like Chauncey Golston. I liked him when we drafted him. I was actually quite happy when we drafted him. But the thing is, he's not a difference maker. He's there as a body filler in some way, as a free tech technique in your defensive line. He'll do his job, like taking on double team blocks, etc. You don't expect him to set the world on fire, and compared to Abdul. I'm more worried about Abdul Carr than I am Chauncey Golston. Put it that way.
Yeah, so you have this game plan for Abdul Carter, and actually it's the lucky charm that you should be worried about.
Nah, not really. Now we've got Tyler Booker, though. Tyler Booker will set that straight.
Shall I go?
Yeah, I'm just trying to recover after Aaron's Scott Steiner impression there, which
it's
was
a hell of a speech.
Which was picked up by a few people. A lot of people are asking if we're going to bring back routine drug testing on the podcast, which might have to happen.
We've also got
80. We've also got stuff like 85% of the stats you read on the internet are false. Albert Einstein and never back the early kickoff, Gandhi, which I think says exactly that. Phil, we'll round it out with you. I can probably take a punt at what you're going to say, but yeah, how do you see it going for you this year?
Well, I first off, I actually got the order exactly right last year. I won a bit of money on it, predicting that the Commanders would usurp the Cowboys, but that was purely on a betting basis. The fact that obviously that was a higher odds than backing the Cowboys, but generally I thought there was a good chance, and it turned out to be true. So I was tempted to go for the same this season. The logic would state the Commanders are on the up, the Cowboys are a little bit uncertain. They're not necessarily in the same position, but you can never discount the Cowboys, and for all the chaos and all the Jerry Jones and all the stuff that goes on, they're always there. They're always there and thereabouts. They always find some way to be somewhat competitive. Less so last season, but every other season before, when the Eagles have been good, the Cowboys have always managed to be there, and there's a credit to sort of like the players, the individual talents that they've got. So I feel like I've just got this nagging feeling that the Cowboys are going to come second in behind us this season, purely based on that, and also I'm going to lean towards the Commanders not being as good as they were, just like a little, not a slump, but the plateau for Jaden Daniels and an aging Commanders team. It could be really good, but I'm just going to go with the Commanders going back down to third, the Cowboys somehow managing to get second, and the Giants just goes without saying they're going to come forth despite that stirring speech, which has not changed the needle for me whatsoever. But I love it. I love it all the same, because we've been there not that long ago, really. We were bottom of the division, not knowing who our quarterback was. So I kind of feel it. That's kind of where I was saying about the Giants. I'd be like, take another season, because you don't want to be sort of going up too soon before you're ready. And at the end of the day, if you've not got no chance of getting near the top, you might as well make sure that you are in a couple of years. So I'd be more scared if the Giants took this season off as well than if they tried hard. If they try hard this season, then it would just seem like the Giants don't really know what they want to do, and nothing to worry about for a few more years yet. Sorry to say.
Well, don't worry. We went all out to beat Indianapolis Colts with a third string quarterback to ruin the chance of Cam Ward. So I don't think there's any chance of us tanking to improve our draft position.
that is all the time we have for this week. And for those Giants fans who are listening, and anybody else who actually wants to tune in to us, feel free. Those rousing speeches don't happen every week, but you will get some random tangents from Shane and some of the others. So, it does happen. We will be back on Thursday to talk about our hopes for the preseason and take a shot at the 53-man roster. Before we go, let's give you guys a chance to plug your show and just let us know what your sort of seasonal plans are. So, Phil, do you want to crack on with that one?
Yeah, British and Irish Eagles on most social media platforms. We are also now part of the Philly Sports International umbrella. We've tried to bring on the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Flyers as well. It's in its first year, but we're trying to sort of bring collectively more of the Philly sports nature to it. So check us out at Philly Sports International on the same sort of platforms. Going into this season, we haven't got a trip planned, unfortunately, but we've got several watch parties around the UK. So we are in London for the Kansas City game because there's also a Kansas City Philly baseball game that night. It's going to be a huge night in Passyunk Avenue in Waterloo. We're also going to Cardiff, which I think we have reached out to the UK Cowboys. I know you guys said you were over for the Eagles-Dallas game, but we are going to Cardiff. I know you guys might have put out team members, so all Cowboys fans are welcome. Honestly, it'll be a good night, I promise you. It'll be good fun. And then we've got a watch party in Glasgow on Good Friday after that game for the Bears game. We went to Glasgow for the Ravens game last season. It was absolutely huge, so we're keen to get back to Glasgow. Paul, I know you're in the area. You're more than welcome to come along to that one as well if you're about, mate.
Yeah, just send me a wee message, dude.
Paul, you might as well go next. So UK Cowboys fans, give us some all the rundown.
Yep. So first week, we're going to be meeting up with the NFL Scotland crew, the Stramash podcast. We're meeting up with them for their annual Top Golf event for week 1, after the Dallas and Philly game on the Sunday. Then obviously we'll be just getting everything all prepared up for the big Thanksgiving trip for Dallas versus Philly. Then the actual game against Kansas City, both home games at Arlington. But yeah, in terms of watch parties, we've not really organize anything yet in terms of watch parties as of yet, but plans are on the works for that.
Cool. Josh, I know you're relatively new, so the the watch parties and stuff might not be quite on the forefront of your guys' mind, but what have you got planned for the upcoming season?
Yeah, we don't have any watch parties, but we are going to Madrid. So for the Commanders game against the Dolphins, and we have tickets for that game, all 3 of us. So we're very excited for that. Any Commanders fans who are making the trip, or any Dolphins fans, or anyone else who's out there, please come and say hello. We're going to do a live pod, I think, out there, which will be good. But yeah, Hail on 3 pod on X. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Any engagement, any feedback, much appreciated, because we are pretty new, but having a great time, and thanks for having us on.
No, I appreciate it. Like we said earlier, you were the final piece of the puzzle here to make sure that we had that Commanders kind of representation on here, and I think it's gone well with the 4 having a bit of back and forth. I really appreciate it. Obviously, this is almost run for an hour and a half, so I appreciate giving the time as well. We obviously have our meet up on October the 26th for the Giants versus Philadelphia game at Belushi's London Bridge in London. So any Giants fans who are looking at that is the meetup for this year. There might be potentially one later in the year, but plans are ongoing. But it looks like we are all pretty jam-packed with what we're doing. Good luck to the content for the year. I'm not going to say good luck for the season, because it would feel wrong. But we really appreciate you coming on. I think this has been a bit of a hit. A lot of people in the comments are saying how much they've enjoyed this and the back and forth. So maybe the fact that I've put 2025 in the graphic down the bottom is a good indication that this was something that we will continue to do, maybe as a joint venture next year. As always, remember to like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can hit the bell to be notified when we are live. If you aren't already, follow us on the socials in the description down below. I'll make sure to put the guys' socials down there as well, so if anybody from those teams is visiting, do have a look. And then do rate us on your platform podcast of choice. Anything to add before we go from anyone?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks for having me on, and just thank you for everyone that's commenting. Even though it's overwhelmingly mostly Giants and stuff like that, but some great comments in there, really engaging. It's been really fun. Had a great time.
Yeah, I'd love to echo that as well. The Eagles fans are brawling in there as their typical nature is. It's been quite fun to sort of be sneaking in the comments and seeing the back and forth. And it's just been great to come on and chat to you guys, get the insights into the other areas as high or low as they might be. But yeah, it's been great fun. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and I think, Craig, we might have to have some a discussion, because we've invited these guys into our house and they've told us we're going to finish last in the division. So I think we maybe have to kick them out.
It could be different next year, man.
We'll save.
Thanks for taking the time and giving us an insight into the teams and how your off season has gone, and how your feelings going into the season. And I'm sure it will. The banter will flow for the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll circle back halfway through the season and see how we all feel. That might be an idea, but we'll keep that in the back pocket. So, my thanks go to Josh from Hell on 3, Paul from UK Cowboys fans, Phil from the British and Irish Eagles, and obviously the newest 2025 draft pick from Big Blue UK and Ireland, Aaron, and everybody who got involved in the comments and watched or listened to us. We are signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.